Well, it's finally here. The final Modern Warfare 3 beta has just concluded, and I put together my full comprehensive review of the game in its current state, which likely won't change all that much heading into the full release. I'm separating this review into sections, so click on the chapter that you want to hear. These are going to be all the points that I touch on: gameplay, movement, gunplay, the meta and balancing, gear and equipment, the maps, the different game modes, then the standout positives, or the great, the standout negatives, the ugly, and spoiler alert, this game's one Achilles heel that will make or break the experience. And then at the end, my thoughts about what this game means for the future of Call of Duty. Each of these sections will be broken into positives and negatives, or pros and cons, to make it easier to navigate. Skip to any of these points using the chapters on the timeline, or hear me out for everything in the video. It's up to you, but here we go. Just a quick disclosure. I am very aware that I'm critical of modern COD. I'm going to praise and criticize this game, so make sure you stick with me and hear everything before just reacting to every sentence like it's my definitive opinion before you hear every point that I have to make. All right, that being said, let's get into a brief overview of what I think of the game. First, let me start out by saying that this Call of Duty is unarguably the best COD game out of the last 5 years. It already blows Modern Warfare 2019, Cold War, Vanguard, and Modern Warfare 2 straight out of the water, and it's not even fully released yet. I've had more fun playing this game in the last 4 days than I've had playing any COD in the last 4 years. But aside from all gameplay elements being extremely solid, I did have some pretty big issues with some things. So let's get into it, starting off with the gameplay. Right off the bat, let's talk about some gameplay positives. First off, the 150 health increase is, in my opinion, what we needed to balance out a lot of elements in the game, especially the better movement. In older titles, mainly Modern Warfare 2019, the movement was so powerful and fast, and the time to kill was so ridiculously quick, meaning two things. First, movement ability was more important than aim, and if you don't believe me, there's a reason every single sweaty player called themselves the Movement King, which I think is so cringe, by the way, instead of the Aim King, because bursting a couple bullets in the same spot was likely enough to kill somebody, and you didn't need to be able to track, which is an essential part of aiming. Now, tracking becomes extremely important when you realize that it takes 4 to 6 bullets on average to eliminate an opposing player. This defines and enlarges the skill gap by a pretty good amount. What else does this is a reversion back to the classic minimap. This is a feature that should have never left, but thank goodness it's back. These are really the only core gameplay changes that I've noticed. Everything else that changes the overall gameplay belongs in a different category. The negatives? Well, for starters, aim assist seems way too dialed in. And I know, typical mouse and keyboard player complain, right? Well, let's look at it this way. When I watch kill cams of me being killed by somebody who shoots second and still kills me, and they manage to track me the entire way through my jump shot, something just looks really off. And that's because their aim literally locks onto me and they track me perfectly through the air. It genuinely looks like aimbot. And I know this isn't just the opposing player's skill, because nearly every time I've died to a situation like this, everybody's aim looks identical. And even though I'm playing in pretty high SBMM lobbies, I know I'm not going to consistently be playing against controller players with the best aim on the face of the planet who can aim and track better than the top 1% of keyboard and mouse players. So I can tell that this is just aim assist being a bit too strong. This may or may not negate my last point about tracking being super important. Although I do notice controller players flicking off my body from time to time, whenever I'm successfully tracked, it legitimately looks like aimbot. And with how sweaty the lobbies are, it really just doesn't seem fair to be giving these very good controller players such a huge advantage. Another thing is that the spawns, although they're way better than the first weekend, they still don't feel that good at all. I sometimes just think I know where the enemy team is coming from, but I'll be shot from behind, or from somewhere someone just wakes up really close to me. And other times I'll just spawn in front of somebody and die, especially on Rust. The spawns have definitely improved, but they're still really, really bad in my opinion. It really disrupts the flow of the game, especially on high rise, where spawns seem to flip for no reason, and anticipating players' locations just seems really difficult to do. Also, I wish kill streaks could stack, as in if you get a UAV and 4 kills, you could get another UAV after you pop your pre-existing one and get 4 more kills. It becomes harder and harder to go on higher streaks because you have to rely on your teammates to drop another UAV if you want some intel, or you really need to conserve your streaks. It's a minor deal, but it could be super irritating if you want to go for higher streaks or a nuke. As far as the gameplay and the general flow of matches, everything seems pretty solid, except the spawns can definitely seem to throw off the flow of a match. They're not the original spawns from 2009, and they don't have to be, but they've got to be a little more complementary to making the game flow smoother. The movement is what everyone really wants to know about. I'm here to say that movement is definitely back. Slide canceling, more attack sprint duration, faster mantling, jump shotting, it all just feels really fast and fluid and not at all clunky like in Modern Warfare 2. I actually think that in the end, the delay after slide canceling before you can attack sprint is actually good for the game, because it once again creates more of a skill gap when it comes to movement. Instead of being able to spam slide cancels across the entire map, now it makes you have to use your slide canceling wisely to pick your moment to use it and not abuse it as an exploit for resetting your tactical sprint. I think this changes a great middle ground between using it as an exploit and using it as a way to mix up your approach to gunfights. Also, dolphin diving feels way less gimmicky in this game because it's paired alongside the other movement options. Now it just feels like an extra option in your arsenal instead of some whack gimmick like it was in Modern Warfare 2, even though it's the exact same thing. Now you can combine this with other movements to make some really creative plays, if you're gigabrained enough, of course. Drop shotting and jump shotting basically feels identical to Modern Warfare 2, but because the gunplay is so much better, they really do feel great in this game. Although jump shotting isn't as effective as it's been in the past, because the reticle displacement is still kind of annoying. There aren't many negatives for movement, but there are definitely some. First, there is a delay before sliding after you hit your slide button, which in my opinion is super obnoxious. It makes the otherwise fluid feeling of the game's movement feel a little weaker because there isn't enough responsiveness when you initially go for a slide. If you're going to nerf the end of a slide by adding a sprint delay, then make it so we can pick the exact start of our slide and not have to wait a couple hundred milliseconds before it actually happens. Because, in my opinion, it does make a significant difference. Modern Warfare 2019 did this perfectly in my opinion, and I think slides should be instantaneous in this game. Also, it's a weird bug, but sometimes my operator just won't grab ledges, but I'm sure this will be patched in the full release. Also, the inability to do one bunny hop after you jump is really disappointing because it still gives me this really restrictive feeling that my jumps aren't as useful as they should be. I think any more than one bunny hop is pretty exploitative, but just allowing one for more mix-up opportunities for gunfights doesn't seem like that bad of an idea, and it adds another movement skill to master that isn't completely broken and overpowered. This is one of the most important parts of Call of Duty, obviously, because at its core, it's a first-person shooter. Although movement has become a bigger and bigger deal over the years, obviously the gunplay comes first. Let's start out by saying that this gunplay is supremely better than Modern Warfare 2's gunplay by an absolute landslide. There's no visual clutter, the weapons are way faster, and the aim down sight speeds feel great, and the recoil is actually controllable using actual skill, which is such a relief. There's barely any screen shake anymore, which is also huge. The recoil control actually feels so nice, and you're definitely rewarded for being able to control it, especially with the higher time to kill. The 150 health and the better gunplay feel really nice paired together. The gunplay feels pretty similar to Vanguard, but a little bit more futuristic and tuned up, so it's not really a clone. And the optics do remind me of Infinite Warfare, which is kind of cool, especially the Mark 23 reflector. Speaking of the attachments, they work so much better in this game, and the good attachments don't all penalize your ADS speed, and if they do, the trade-off is pretty good, and the penalty isn't even that bad. The attachments also tell you which stat they buff the most in comparison to other benefits by using the arrows next to the benefit. All in all, the weapons feel really good to use, great to build, and they actually reward skilled gunplay, which is such a huge step up from Modern Warfare 2, which in my opinion ruined COD's most essential mechanic. Tac stance also feels really great when you're sliding through somewhere, and it's an awesome tool that absolutely demolishes campers, and it's so satisfying to use when you know someone is pre-aiming you. I was wrecking some sweat balls with this for sure. Call it gimmicky all you want, but it's actually pretty useful inside tighter spaces like buildings when you know you're gonna have to deal with someone jumping right at you in a closed space. It's way easier than tracking somebody up close with a dot sight. Dialing in the damage multipliers for body shots, like the arms and legs, to be more similar to torso shots is also a surprisingly good change, and it makes the game feel a lot more like an arcade shooter and also makes the weapons feel a lot more consistent, which I'm a huge fan of. Now for some negatives. It's really, really annoying that they still penalize jump shotting. I was really hoping that this game didn't do that, but they decided to stick with it. I think there's gonna be gloves that mitigate this, but I just think the mechanic in and of itself is pretty absurd and does not need to be present in the game. It's just such a stupid idea that does not fit with Call of Duty. Regarding damage output, I'm glad they made it more balanced across the board for body shots, narrowing the damage ranges from the head to the feet, but the change of the headshot multiplier from 150% to 120% really makes a huge negative impact on how consistent the time to kill feels when hitting headshots. We are barely rewarded for hitting headshots now, with only a 20% damage boost, which means in order to get kills faster, we'd have to hit 3 to 4 headshots for it to make a significant difference in the time to kill, which just doesn't seem very fair to players with better aim. And it also isn't very fun to shoot first and still die when you hit more bullets and more headshots, and they only hit body shots, but maybe their gun was a little better suited for the situation and you die anyways. I think the original headshot multiplier was fine, and if that's not gonna cut it, maybe 135 to 145% would be a better range if you want it less. This mechanic was actually more disruptive than I thought it was going to be, but regardless of the headshot count, unless you hit a lot of headshots, the time to kill stays relatively the same for a particular weapon across the board, only changing based on the range of the encounter. I got surprisingly aggravated at this mechanic, far more than I expected to. As far as the meta goes, it's just absolutely dominated by the ACW and the Striker. The Striker, for some reason, can 4-tap at basically any range despite getting nerfed, which is super annoying considering I died to a lot of players by getting 4-tapped in the lower torso with a Striker after putting 6 bullets shots, some of them headshots, into their upper body with the ACW, an assault rifle that should be more effective at that range than an SMG. They should either nerf the SMG damage range or just nerf that SMG in particular. I'm sure this won't be a problem in the full release, but no other weapons were that viable besides the ACW and the Striker. Regarding the perks in the meta, it's actually pretty good. The perks seem to be very diverse and spread out, and they really don't penalize you for trying different kits. It makes you carefully consider what you want to sacrifice in order to gain something else as a benefit, like sacrificing sprinting reloads to gain scavenger as a perk, or sacrificing silent footsteps to gain faster running speed. There are really no overpowered perks you can abuse, although some are definitely better than others, and it's really up to you how you handle your perk arrangements. The only annoying part of the meta was the lack of variety in guns. What's funny is that there isn't really much to say about the equipment and gear. It all seems pretty balanced, and I haven't seen anyone use the actual new grenade yet. People are generally sticking with the Semtex and Battle Rage in my lobbies. The gear system is actually very good, and the perks that are offered from said gear can really define how your class setup functions, and is a very nice way that they innovated the perk system. This innovation is actually, finally, a positive one. Flash grenades also function like CSGO and Valorant now, where you have to be looking at them in order to be brutally affected by them, which is kind of nice because they're super powerful, but the throw has to be good. Some negatives. There are a couple of perks that really stand out from the rest in their category, like the canvas sneakers, the lightweight boots, or the tactical pads, or the scavenger gloves that just offer more of an advantage than their counterparts for the time being. But hey, to each their own. You can really go nuts with different combinations, but some perks just seem to be blatantly better than others. Also, the stalker boots definitely need a buff because I barely notice a difference when I'm using them, if at all. Also, Battle Rage got nerfed, but now it's just kind of useless, as far as I can tell. The unlimited tactical sprint is nice, and giving you quick fix for 6 seconds is alright, I guess. But the fact that it doesn't even behave like a stim shot after you take lots of damage makes me hope that there's actually a stim shot within the game when it fully releases. Also, the flash grenade lasts absolutely forever if you're not using gear that mitigates its effects. If you get hit by it, you're going to die. But I guess it's kind of a plus that you have to be facing it for it to really take a huge effect on you. Maps can make or break a Call of Duty game. And let me say, we've got some good maps just in the beta. And yes, I already know we've seen these maps 14 years ago, but there were obviously changes that were made to them to modernize them and fix flaws that they had in the original Modern Warfare 2. Despite being basically universally disliked, Estate doesn't play very poorly. It's funny that the map reminds me of other oversized Modern Warfare 2019 and Vanguard maps, but with its remastering, the visibility is definitely better than the original Modern Warfare 2. It's still a map I vote against 99% of the time, but hardpoint in this map is actually pretty fun, and to my surprise, it competes with Favela and Skid Row for votes. They did a really great job remastering it. On to stronger positives. Rust plays really well too, and is basically Rust from Modern Warfare 2019, but just way better. The spawns do feel a tad wonky, and sometimes I feel like I spawn behind people for free kills, or get spawned behind, or get spawned in somebody's sights, but the map stays true to the original and the Modern Warfare 2019 version of it, and it's tons of fun. I've definitely played this map the most out of all of them, just because everybody votes for it. Having 150 health in this map is also fun, because it gives you a chance to get out of sticky situations a lot easier than if you were just melted down from 100 health in less than 100 milliseconds. Getting up on the highest platform still feels just as rewarding. This map is also the best looking version of Rust 2. It's sunny, bright, and the visibility is really crisp on it. Both the original Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 2019 had slightly darker, more brown looking versions of Rust, and I think the one in Modern Warfare 3 does it a lot more justice by improving the visibility. Any and every game mode is fun in this map, but let's be real, who really plays the objective on this map? In addition to this map, High Rise is just awesome. It's so much fun to play in this map, and I still haven't really learned it all that much. I've learned it enough to the point of getting used to where players will peek from on hardpoint and domination, but I still don't know how to predict the different sightlines you can get shot from when you're trying to hold down an area, but that's just a lack of knowledge on my part, not an issue with the map. They did a really great job remastering it and making it feel next gen. They also took out some really brutal head glitches where you could abuse snaking to balance out the map from exploits. Hardpoint is super fun in this map, and so is domination. I prefer those two over Kill Confirmed and TDM, but that's just me. The map plays fine regardless of the mode. I'm always voting either High Rise or Rust over everything. Now for the negatives. It could just be an issue with my lack of knowledge of the maps, but I barely have any experience with the original Modern Warfare 2 maps, although when I heard the maps were going to be in the game, I did go back, re-download the original Modern Warfare 2, and played through a bunch of the maps to get a feel for them. But anyways, here's my honest thoughts about the negative qualities of Modern Warfare 3's early access map selection. Skid Row is a map that just drives me crazy. I don't know what it is, but this map is just just really not that fun in early access, especially with how sweaty the game is. This might be a hot take, but it's my opinion, so I'll stick with it for now. I honestly just think the buildings are super annoying to play because you always get shot by someone holding a corner in the room below the B flag, and you just get camped and outgunned running through the A tunnel. Point C is definitely the easiest flag to capture, but since there's so many sightlines in that area, it's not a good idea to play this map really aggressively. You have to play along the outskirts and edges to really have a good time and not die a lot. Also, the B flag is just a big fat no-no. If you want to die by someone hard scoping the hallway or getting jumped on by someone holding a center room, go for the B flag. The middle top building where that flag is at is just super irritating to play, and the map has just been no fun for me at all. They did a great job remastering it. I just typically vote against the map for now. Hardpoint makes it a little better because you can't really hold the top hallway as much as you can in other modes, but anything besides Hardpoint just gets really annoying. Maybe as I learn it more, I'll enjoy it more. Another map I haven't enjoyed at all is Favela. The rooftops and all the buildings create really confusing visuals, and you just seem to get shot from really unmanageable sightlines by someone sitting up there. The map is way too complex, and I'm sure it was like that in the original game as well. It just does not play well, and also the spawns are super wonky, and sometimes you just die to someone who spawns right behind your flag and gets a free kill on you. Especially on Hardpoint, it's just really difficult to get a streak going, and there's way too many spots to hold in a Hardpoint. Some Hardpoints are way too large in my opinion, and it just gets really annoying trying to locate who is contesting the point. I just don't enjoy this map, and I'm pretty sure that's a popular opinion. Another popular opinion is that Estate, although it was remastered well, is just a pretty mid map. It's really, really big. Not really much else to say about it. It plays better than I expected, but not as good as the other maps. Also, Rust and High Rise just have some really wonky spawns, and sometimes it makes it really unenjoyable because it just ruins the flow of the map. Ground War, from what I played, just feels boring. I don't know if I'm playing it wrong or what, but I just can't seem to find lots of players, and I just have more moments when I was aggravated than entertained. Neither map is necessarily bad, but the mode just plays pretty slowly, and I didn't find myself enjoying it a whole lot. I'm just not that kind of player. I enjoyed it in Modern Warfare 2, believe it or not. I just don't know what was up with it in Modern Warfare 3. Search and Destroy plays like Search and Destroy should. There's great fun to be had in this mode. I don't know if it will equal the amount of fun I had playing Search in Modern Warfare 2019, but we'll have to see once all the maps come out. All the maps played solid, especially High Rise, but I hated playing Search on Estate because the defending team is granted a massive free high ground advantage because they spawn at the house, which gives them a free vantage point, and they can just sit back and get free kills when players try to push the objective. It was a super annoying time, and the foliage just made it worse. But searching the other maps was pretty fun, and the trash talk, also good. All of the original game modes like TDM, Hardpoint, and so forth play how they're supposed to play, with the exception of very bad wonky spawns. Generally, objective-based modes like Domination and Hardpoint are just way more fun to play on these OG maps than TDM or Kill Confirmed, in my opinion. Cutthroat I could see being a pretty fun mode. It was actually quite interesting to play this mode in Estate, and the strategy and teamwork aspect is really nice. It's a pretty niche game mode, but I'm sure if you can grab 2 other friends, you can have a good amount of time having fun in this mode. I just really hope this is not their replacement for 2v2 gunfight, because that mode is just really great, and a 3v3v3 mode, while it's a great idea, is not a solid or equal replacement for it. But Cutthroat did not disappoint, but it also didn't overwhelmingly impress me, at least not yet. But Cutthroat is definitely good. Now I'm going to sum up the great and the ugly, the overwhelming positives and the overwhelming negatives. The great. For elements of this game that are standout great, the gunplay and the movement really being back and more balanced than ever, allowing for great movement but requiring less spastic usage, like just spamming bunny hops and slide cancels across the entire map, and more thought out maneuvers that are still pretty powerful gunfight techniques, really makes this game have a balance between movement ability and gunplay, and it goes really nicely with a 150 health, putting an emphasis on both movement and gunplay abilities, which was severely lacking in the past Modern Warfare titles and Vanguard. High Rise and Rust play really well, and I'm excited to see how the rest of the remastered maps will play as well. The damage multipliers being modified to be more similar to each other for the majority of non-headshots also makes guns feel very consistent and gives the game a much more arcade shooter feel, which was much needed. Overall, finding your flow is much easier because everything feels so smooth, and the map design is just so much better than the past 4 titles. And once you find your flow, the game just feels so satisfying, smooth, and fun to play. It's such a huge upgrade from the past 4 years, and it even brings its own original and unique feel, putting balance balance and smoothness on the modern Call of Duty engine that we've been missing. The weapon and kit customization is also next level, and the gear system is also an innovation that works very well and is a lot of fun to mess with, and is balanced and fun. Making classes is actually really entertaining, and you can make each class feel different from other classes with how you build them, and experimenting with different ideas is something I can foresee being very rewarding and fun when the game fully releases. All in all, what makes this game great is that it finally combines the balance of movement and gunplay, good map design, fun original mechanics, applying old mechanics that should have never left, and a new smooth look and feel to Call of Duty that we were in dire need of. The worst negatives about this game that really drag it down. First off is the headshot multiplier. I really do think that this is a super disruptive change, and it should either be reverted back to the normal 150% damage bonus, or at least back to 135 or 145%. Having each gun have pretty consistent times to kill, even when hitting 1 or 2 headshots, just makes headshots feel really unrewarding and pointless to go for. The main deciding factor in how many shots it takes to kill is the range, not where your bullets hit, which is a great positive for the body, but a huge negative for headshots. If you haven't been able to play yet, this is actually very jarring, and sometimes you'll think that you got the kill and look away because you hit 3 bodies and 2 headshots, but this still wasn't enough to get the kill. I was finding myself getting extremely aggravated dealing with this. It just feels really bad, but I will just get used to it if it doesn't change. It was just one of the things that frustrated me the most. Second is the weapon balancing. Now, I'm sure this will change in the full release, but the balancing is just abysmal right now, and it's not hard to tell which guns are the strongest. It just reminds me of the TAC 56 and the Vaznev 9K, and I pray that we don't have a repeat of that. Hopefully the Striker will receive nerfs, and the other assault rifles are just buffed to be able to compete with the MCW. The MCW isn't overpowered per se, it's just very strong compared to the other guns in its class, and I think buffing those guns is a better idea rather than nerfing the MCW, because it's not the damage that makes it good, it's the incredible recoil control that it has. The Striker, on the other hand, is just straight up overpowered, and there's really no debating that. You basically only see the Striker being used, and possibly the MCW, especially in really sweaty lobbies. The spawns are also a super big issue and have to get fixed. I was getting extremely aggravated with how the game was flowing in regards to spawns, because I was trying to use positional and map knowledge, like predicting enemy spawns based off my teammates' positions and who controls what flag, but these spawns just weren't really happening, and a lot of the time I was just dying due to unpredictable and unfair enemy spawn points that put them in a huge advantage. I was also the benefactor to these bad spawns from time to time, but they most definitely were annoying and unfair, and they generally just disrupted the flow of the game. Also, aim assist has to get toned down. It's just really annoying how many times I can get killed by either a controller player who tracks me perfectly through the air with seemingly no effort and the kill cam looks like a computer guided their reticle, or a player who doesn't even adjust their aim at all and just holds down the trigger once they look at me, but still kill me even when I'm moving around and putting bullets into them. It's just super irritating and unnecessary how annoying aim assist has become, and this really should be the game where it gets toned down, especially with the longer time to kill. It's extremely important that this doesn't perpetuate any further, as tracking for controller players is significantly easier than it is for keyboard and mouse players, taking little to no effort or skill. Since tracking is a big deal in this game with the increased time to kill, this needs to be addressed. Now for the game's one Achilles heel, and by far the largest negative in the entire test by far. This could be game breaking if this issue is unresolved when the game releases. The skill-based matchmaking is absolutely off the rails. It's more dialed in and stronger than ever, and it even beats Cold War for the most powerful SBMM I have ever seen in any video game ever. I've seen weaker SBMM in ranked modes. It makes longer play sessions really tiresome because you're constantly playing players who the algorithm deems to be on par with you, and for the top 15 to 20% of players, this can seem even more frustrating than it already is for everyone else because each game feels like a ranked match. As I played more and more, I noticed that everyone was basically getting the same amount of kills with only a 2 to 5 kill difference, and matches were ending with pretty tight scores consistently. But the experience within the match was just so unbelievably sweaty. Drop shots, jump shots, and meta class setups were just running rampant in every lobby I played, even from my first match because my stats from past CODs were evidently tracked and transferred into this game. The problem is, even if you're a really great player and you can smack sweats, you're going to get put into lobbies where everybody can also smack sweats, So it's just a cycle of having to constantly adjust how you play to deal with the absolute nightmare each lobby is. They have to turn this down, or the game itself might lose players simply because even though the skill gap is back, being good is still being punished because of the overclocked SBMM. This is a humongous issue. Even critical YouTubers like Blame Truth, the COD father himself, were praising this game for its gameplay and how good it feels, which in and of itself is a feat for him, and how it's the best COD in a long time. However, he eventually concluded he wasn't going to buy the game because of how bad the SBMM is. And please don't come at me with this skill issue nonsense. We all know SBMM is not for fairness. It's to breed addiction. It's not wrong to want to body players because you're good. And it's also not wrong to have a few people on the opposing team to make your life a little more difficult. But it's just really out of control, and every lobby is filled to the brim with sweats. Hopefully when the game gets fully released, it gets heavily toned down. And I honestly expect it to be a little better than the early access anyways, because typically the players that go after an early access test will be more diehard lovers of the franchise anyways. But this issue, unresolved in the full release, could be a huge problem for player retention, and I suggest something gets done about it. Maybe since Microsoft owns COD now, something might happen. I think this game is going to define the next chapter of COD, and ultimately will be a good starting point to build future games. Now that the tactical and camping encouraging era of COD is finally over, thanks to the new mechanics and the return of well-designed maps and movement. Hopefully with the praise and commercial success of the title, and maybe good retention if we see the skill-based matchmaking being dealt with, more titles will turn out like this one and stay true to the original pace and feel of COD, rather than trying to reinvent the wheel like Modern Warfare 2019, Vanguard, and the abysmal Modern Warfare 2. I think this game will have more good than bad instead of vice versa, and for a franchise that sunk so low like COD did, I'm glad they're starting to prioritize game quality and community feedback instead of pushing the Black Cell Battle Pass and ignoring what the fans clearly want. But that's my full review of the Modern Warfare 3 early playtest. It's mostly positive and definitely the best Call of Duty game in a long time. What a relief to finally see mostly positive feedback about how the game plays. There are some serious negatives that I hope will be addressed nonetheless, and the SBMM could be a fatal issue, but we'll have to wait and see. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe while you're at it too. Take it easy.